debate. The honourable member for Ajax-Pickering.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a great honour for me to rise on this motion. And this has been a matter that has been dealt with for some time by this House. Tomorrow it comes to a vote. It's going to be a very tight vote. I've had an opportunity to travel with Women's Caucus across the country very recently, talking with groups representing women, representing police, representing emergency physicians, to hear from them just how essential the registry is, both as a tool for police and for saving lives. And I think it's worth mentioning, Mr. Speaker, just some of the many organizations that have come out and said that the registry is essential. The Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, which has more than 430 chiefs of police across the country. Of them, there's only 3 chiefs who oppose the registry. The Canadian Police Association, which represents police across this country, with more than 160 police associations. Of those, only 6 are opposed. Many of them are reconsidering based on the facts that have presented over the last number of months. The Canadian Association of Police Boards, Fédération de policiers et policières municipaux du Québec, the Canadian Association of Emergency Physicians, the Canadian Association for Adolescent Health, the Canadian Pediatric Society, the Canadian Public Health Association, the Canadian Federation of Nurses Unions, the Alberta Centre for Injury Control and Research, Association Québécoise pour la prévention du suicide. It goes on and on. I'm just giving highlights. YWCA of Canada, Canadian Federation of University Women, the National Council of Women of Canada, the National Association of Women in the Law, the Coalition of Provincial and Territorial Association Councils on the Status of Women, the Canadian Council of Muslim Women, the Jewish Women International Canada, Fédération des Femmes de Québec, Alberta Council of Women's Shelters, Manitoba Association of Women's Shelters, Regroupement de Maisons pour Femmes Victimes de Violences Conjugales. Of course, we have many governments, the Government of Quebec and Ontario, among others, countless victims of, who survived or were family members of the École Polytechnique or Dawson College, the Canadian Labour Congress, Canadian Auto Workers, Public Safety Alliance of Canada, the Barreau de Quebec, the Coalition for Gun Control, Amnesty International, and I could spend the full 10 minutes just reading the names that are on this list. But, Mr. Speaker, what they have said, and said clearly, is the gun registry is needed, and they're asking for members of Parliament to say them. The reasons are clear. Let's take a situation when I was in Mississauga, and I was talking to an inspector who told me a story of a situation where a domestic violence had occurred, and he was called into that situation. They knew that there were approximately 9 guns registered in that home. When the situation was broken up and the man was removed, when he came back, they were able to be assured those guns were removed, that he wasn't coming back to having guns. In the minds of that officer, in that situation, the registry saved lives. If that individual had come back into that home and guns were there, he feared death would have ensued, either for the woman or for the man himself. And in countless other situations, as we traveled across the country, we heard individual stories just like this, where in an instance where somebody was suicidal, a family member could call in and say, the situation's become unstable. Call police and say the guns that are in that home need to be removed. And in the minds of the officers we spoke to, there was not a doubt that it saved lives to go in and remove those guns from that home to make sure that person didn't commit suicide. They would have no idea of knowing how many weapons were there. And because of the spontaneous nature of crime, because it's heat of the moment, because of the fact that suicide often can come out of nowhere, we have no idea. We would have absolutely no idea otherwise that there were guns in that home or something could have been done. Clearly, in these examples, the registry saves lives. When we were in Halifax, there was an officer who spoke to me about how much the registry did to promote accountability in ownership. Just in the same way when we register our car, it gives us a sense of responsibility for owning that car. If something goes wrong, we know instantly police would be able to find out exactly what went wrong and who is responsible. Gun ownership is no different. Registration of guns promotes accountability back to the weapon that that person owns. We also hear from officers about when weapons are stolen, taken from a home. Both the fact that it makes it easy to then return those weapons to the rightful owner, but also to the fact that in a criminal investigation, it can be very useful to know where the gun was taken, what time it was taken, and where it was taken. And it helps to establish where that individual was and at what time the gun was taken. We also know that aside from knowing exactly where the weapons are in those situations for crime, that it also is a vital tool in solving crime. When we were in Toronto with Women's Caucus, we heard from somebody who talked about an inquiry in Collingwood. And the inquiry clearly said if it had not been for the gun registry, they would not have been able to solve that homicide, period. And so people could look at this, and I encourage them to look at that inquiry and others. And the one in Collingwood could be no more clear, that the registry in that example led directly to a conviction. And here's a reality, that the vast majority of crimes, because they are spontaneous in nature, means that registered weapons do get used. And it does give us an opportunity to trace back ownership and be able to help get convictions. And as well, we know that in situations that are heated, like in domestic violence, that when somebody knows their gun is registered, it perhaps gives them pause for thought, to know it's going to be a lot harder to get away with a violent act. All of this value and so much more, enforcing prohibition orders and others, costs us about $4 million a year, the RCMP says. So to delete all of that, it would cost about $4 million a year. To put that in context, a complex murder investigation undertaken by police costs $2 million. If we want to consider some of the spending this government has undertaken, the fake lake and accessories cost $2 million. $4 million for that. Come on. And when you hear the government say about prison spending, that $10 billion or more, there's no price too high, they say, for public safety. And yet apparently when it comes to protecting women and for dealing with things that prevent suicide and something that helps get convictions, $4 million is just too high a price. You know, I had the opportunity to sit through committee and listen to the family of victims from École Polytechnique. Sit there with other members who were sitting through, and it was painful to watch as they came and fought this battle yet again. They thought they had won. They thought that they had gotten through this. And for them to come back before committee and be dragged through this process yet again was extraordinarily painful and unnecessary. But if there is a silver lining in this debate, I hope, in fact, polls showing increasing support for the registry actually illustrates that this is a chance once and for all to explain to Canadians why we need the registry. Once and for all, put this debate to rest so we can say to the families who suffered because of what happened at École Polytechnique, not again. You're not going to be dragged through this a third time. That this debate will be done here, now. That all of these national associations that have stood up and said this registry saves lives, all the facts and information that have come out from the RCMP internal report and from others, will end this debate. When we know that the RCMP report, as I said, that just came out, said, and I quote from that report from the RCMP, 81% of trained police officers support the statement, in my experience, the registry query results have proven beneficial in major operations. 81%, that's from an RCMP report. When I get the opportunity to look at how our caucus has handled this issue, I'm profoundly proud. About a year ago, we got together and we said, how can we get on one page? There are some concerns about the registry and how we can make it stronger. So with our colleagues, we were able to make a number of suggestions and get to a unified position. But I will tell this House, as I've traveled the country, that when I'm in places like Quebec and I talk to the citizens there about their members of Parliament who are voting the other way, against their constituents' wishes, in Kitchener-Waterloo, when the region passes a nearly unanimous motion pleading with their MPs to support a registry that saves lives, and their MPs say no, they won't listen to their community. In Mississauga, or out in Vancouver and Richmond, when I hear from their constituents overwhelmingly say, please support the registry, and they turn their back. They got nothing for their constituents. Instead, we stood together, we got a unified position. We're here in this House to say we're going to make sure this registry is saved. Yeah. Now it's down. So now it comes down to the NDP. A year ago, I wish they had done the same. I wish they had worked with their caucus to get a united position. Right now, this vote is on the razor's edge. NDP votes will determine whether or not it goes through. This is a matter of principle. It's imperative that all NDP members stand up and vote for something they know as clear as day works. So we're calling upon the NDP to do exactly what we did, to get that consensus. Don't try to have it both ways. Don't have some of your MPs vote for and some against. When the time of decision comes tomorrow, do the right thing.